Hi, I'm Arlene McIntyre, Creative Director at Ventura Design, and you're listening to Shut the Front Door, a light-hearted podcast that will bring you through the front door and into the homes of influential and interesting people. Home for me is one of the most important things in my life. My career has fortunately given me the opportunity to work closely with people and to help them create a home they will cherish forever. Today on Shut the Front Door, we have the pleasure of being joined by the Managing Director of Sherry Fitzgerald, New Homes, Ivan Gaine. Since starting off his career with Sherry Fitzgerald in 1999, he has worked across a number of areas with commercial and residential. Ivan is one of the leading experts in Ireland on housing, residential investment and developments. Only last year, his national team managed over 2,000 transactions across new homes and residential investments. The team of experienced property professionals have just reopened their doors this week during phase 2 of the reopening strategy for the country. And we are looking forward to having the chance to speak to Ivan today about the trends that he is now seeing post-COVID-19. Married to Michelle, father to Ben, Lucy and Ethan, and best friend to Cocker Spaniel, Rua Rocky Felipe, gives me great pleasure to introduce Ivan to Shut the Front Door. Well, hello, Ivan. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Arlene. Nice to speak to you.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time out to chat with me. I have no doubt you're super busy being back to the office this week.
Yeah, it's really great to be back. Obviously, we're socially distancing, and where I usually have a dozen people on the floor here today, there's only a handful of us. So it's it's a strange new normal, but it's I think the announcement on Friday and I suppose the acceleration of the unlocking is very positive. So there's definitely a bit more pep in the step and more enthusiasm for what we're about.
Yeah, definitely. We're certainly seeing that too and feeling that too. It's like people just want to get back to normal and get back on track. And like whatever their plans might have been previous to this, it's like everyone's, you can feel the hunger is there to kind of try and get back into the market and keep things moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, from the housing perspective, I suppose the impact of COVID-19 is going to be significant, and it probably has knocked us back 3, if not 4 years in terms of, the targets and the completion levels. But we had a fairly resilient lockdown period. In purely from a new homes perspective, in April we would have sold about 42, 43 new homes. In May we sold 77. And on Monday, just when we fully reopened and got people back to show houses, we had 10 sales. So it's positive, and I think within our new homes market, the vast majority of our buyers are first-time buyers. So by their nature, they're typically coming out of rental accommodation, and I think that value on a mortgage repayment versus rent is anything in the order of 30 to 40%. So they are proving to be resilient. Obviously, the big impact is on supply, and we're probably going to see completions this year of maybe 13, 14,000, whereas last year was 21,000 completions. Mm-hmm. And the expectation is to maybe, this could have been a 25, 26,000 year in terms of homes completion. So, we're probably losing 10,000 out of the year.
Yeah, God. So how do you actually see, how would you predict the rest of the year is going to unfold for us?
I think obviously, this week is important with regard to government formation. And I think when people talk about the housing market, particularly when it relates to new homes and house building, it's much more systemic than purely the market forces. So government policy will have a very material impact on how we recover post-COVID-19. So I think, in a general sense and in a very simplistic way, we do need to target delivery around different cohorts of society. So, we need to deliver 10 or 12,000 social houses. We need to deliver homes for rental. We need to deliver homes for the private market. We need to deliver senior housing. I think one of the things we've been working on quite a lot is sort of the principle and the idea of supported ownership. So if you look at some of the policies in the UK, and in effect their Help to Buy is an equity loan. So I think there are solutions, but there isn't a panacea. It's looking at different cohorts of society, looking at different life stages that people are in and different income levels, and really breaking it all down.
For sure. And how do you think your team has adapted over the whole duration of the lockdown?
I have to say I'm really proud of my team, Arlene. They've been really superb. Given the nature of our work, we're on the road quite a bit. So thanks to our technology team, we were well set up in terms of systems to be able to enable the remote working. And we've had a lot of fun. We started this morning with a hit class in our homes before we came to the office. So we've become well adapted to Zoom, and there's a lot more checking in and checking out. But the guys have maintained focus. They've really supported each other really, really well. And yeah, I think it's a focus on productivity and not presenteeism. And I think it's absolutely going to change the way we work as an organization and as a business. And that's giving more choice to people. It's giving people greater flexibility. But yeah, I don't think anybody's missing the commute. So that's certainly a positive.
And what's it like for you around Ball's Bridge? Is it like a ghost town?
It's pretty strange, Arlene. It is. Yeah, I'm here looking out the window, and there's very little traffic. There's very few people about. Any of the offices or shops that are open are obviously, off kind of 25 or 30% occupancy. So it feels a bit like being here on a Sunday morning. So yes, it's definitely, the new normal is a little odd as yet.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think that, can you see a future of, for Sherry Fitzgerald wearing masks? Do you think that's going to be something that's very important for you in the rest of this year?
It's something we're absolutely open-minded to, Arlene. I mean, and again, I think it'll somewhat depend on the situation of the purchaser. At the moment, we're sort of staying out of show houses, so we're not exactly going into the houses, accompanying people. So we tend to sort of meet and greet outside and then bring it through. If the medical guidance is there, we absolutely will. Some people are arriving with masks themselves. We have provision of masks. So yeah, look, we'll take the direction, but we're obviously very mindful of all of those things. But certainly in the last 24 hours, that does seem to be growing momentum in terms of that safeguarding.
Yeah, for sure. And virtual tours, I see you've been offering that as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah, the virtual perspective, which is an accompanied viewing, and it is an opportunity to have a dialogue with the agent in advance, and that's something that we will continue. So, look, I suppose the days of the open views are no more for quite some time. So, it is much more efficient for people to engage and take 15 or 20 minutes out and have an accompanied virtual view and ask some of the questions. And that's a preference to do that in advance of a physical viewing. So yeah, again, I say back to the productivity, it has accelerated some of the online behaviors we've been probably scared of embracing. It's forced that shift in a more material way, and it has been really, really effective. And I think particularly for new homes, it's really, really an efficient way of doing it. So it's been good thus far.
Great. So, Ivan, I would love to chat with you, if I may, about your first memories of home. Can you share a little of those with me?
Yeah. Well, I'm originally a Dub, but when I was a young baby, my family and just me at the time moved to Mullingar. So I suppose I lived just on the outskirts of Mullingar town. And I know when we left Templeogue and moved to Mullingar, my mum and dad rented a house, and my memory is probably related back to photographs of that house, and there was this sort of burnt yellow wall with Winnie the Pooh. So I think probably a photo of me and my mum and dad as a little fella, which actually in that photo, now that I think of it, I look remarkably like my little fella today. So it's or he looks more remarkably like me when I think back to that. So it's probably that rental house in Hillside Lawn in Mullingar and Winnie the Pooh on the yellow wall is probably the one that comes to mind.
Good old Winnie. He gets around, Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, a classic.
He's a classic, exactly. And tell me about your family home style. What was your own family home like? Can you describe it for me?
Yeah, back at home. Yeah, I mean it varied over decades a little bit, but we moved from that house on Hillside Drive to another house, which is still where my father and his wife live now today. So we had, I suppose, the that suburban house in the country outside a provincial town. So we'd nice front drive and back garden and plenty of kickabouts and probably spent more time out of the house than in the house. But yeah, it evolved. It was a pretty colourful house. My dad is a painter and an artist, so he's a lot of portraits and seascapes and landscapes and a lot of things through it. So yeah, it went through a couple of iterations, and probably when I was a teenager, we took the roof on and off and redid the upstairs, and yeah, it was kind of ever evolving, really.
Great. And what was your teenage bedroom like? What posters did you have on the wall, Ivan?
Yeah, I had a fairly eclectic mix. I was I had, my hair isn't quite as long now as it was then, but it is getting longer by the day. And with hairdressers not to return, the curls are definitely back. I had a few Jimi Hendrix and Pearl Jam and Red Hot Chili Peppers posters adorning the walls. So it was there was probably a couple of years there. It was somewhat moody, but I brightened up as I got a little bit older.
Excellent. And tell me about your college days. When did that happen?
So I went to in the late 90s. I went to college in Limerick in the Limerick Institute of Technology and did a Bachelor of Surveying in Property Economics. And I suppose one of the highlights is when I was 19, I met my now wife. So we literally were childhood sweethearts, and been together ever since. So that was as well as a little bit of education, that was definitely the biggest win on my
definitely
3 years in Limerick. Yeah.
Did you travel much after college?
Probably not enough. In hindsight, and within the college degree I did, there was a placement year in what was DTZ, Sherry Fitzgerald at the time, now Cushman and Wakefield, and I was probably boring and mature too early, so I was really keen to get that graduate job going really quickly. So I spent a summer in LA working in a beach club, which was really fun, with a few minor celebrities. And Michelle and I, we did take a summer off and did the backpacking trip around Australia and New Zealand. But it probably is something of a regret that before we got tied down with real life, that maybe we didn't explore horizons a little bit further for a little bit longer. But time in the future when the airlines get back up and going, one would hope.
I know, exactly. So at what point did you join Sherry Fitzgerald?
Well, I was an intern on that college placement in 1999, and actually, when I think back to the current crisis, it was September 10th. With September 11th coming the day thereafter, that we flew home.
Wow.
And obviously that was a major economic inflection point and a fairly material sort of crisis. So I was due to start in 2001 on the graduate program. September 11th happened, and I was kind of taken on doing some temporary work in actually my first job out of college was in a porta cabin for a client who is still a client, Kingscroft, in a scheme called Bunbury Gate and Swords. But I spent long commutes from Goatstown, crossing the M50 toll bridge to sit in a porta cabin pretty much on my own for 100 days before my graduate job kicked off in earnest. But it is kind of a reminder that shocks can be temporary, and it at that time it was tough. But come that January 2002 is when I kicked off in earnest in Sherry Fitzgerald Group.
Okay. And my goodness, I mean, you're now at the helm of New Homes. How are you enjoying that? I must say it's been a great career within the group, and I've had a lot of experience in different parts of it, predominantly in development land. I worked in professional services in landlord and tenant and bank valuations at various parts of time. The piece I love about New Homes is that it's both
you have a lot of interaction with our clients who are corporates and institutions and developers and the funding piece. So it's very much a corporate audience, but obviously our interaction with consumers and the public and the buyers is really, really good. So look, it's absolutely a people business. I think something that we've got more involved in more recently is around policy and that direction in terms of where things are at. So I'm fortunate to work very closely with PII, Property Industry Ireland, which is part of IBEC. I'm on the council there, and I chair the supply and demand committee meeting there. So you get a really broad sense of all the different professions. But we're working with creatives, working with designers, with architects, and working with the bankers. We have a really good sort of 360-degree perspective of it. And obviously the business has grown a lot, and I suppose over my period of time, we went from a high of over 4,000 sales to a low of 85 sales per annum, and built back up the business over a period of time. So it's been it's certainly had its highs and lows, but we've a great dynamic within the new homes team, which is really enjoyable. And I suppose increasingly we're national. So I suppose spending time in Cork and Galway and Limerick and understanding those markets and working through that is exciting. And we're looking at international examples of new methods of construction, new house topographies. So we visit Cambridge in over the last couple of years in terms of looking at an intensification of housing density, which is not just apartments or houses, but looking at a different approach, which I think is really going to be a big part of the solution into the future. So wow. I say I've a pretty nice job, I must admit.
That is incredible. And are you in touch with your American and international clients a lot, especially now?
Yeah, I mean, the international appetite for Ireland is incredible. And I suppose it's really over the last 10 years or really the last 12 years as such, when the financial crash happened, that interaction with an international audience on the financial side has been very material. So myself and Marion Finnegan, who's our former chief economist and now head of residential, I suppose for a lot of the last decade, we were probably selling Ireland and selling the demographics and selling the trajectory in terms of, effectively reestablishing an industry. So we've had a lot of that interaction, and I suppose with the establishments of the PLCs in house building, etc. There's a huge international audience. So it's, I never thought a client would be, coming out of Abu Dhabi, etc. So it's been quite the journey for sure.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that your clients like to be challenged and pushed in new ways of thinking?
They do, and they like to challenge us back.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, and I think it's, again, it is back to the changes that have come through, particularly on the planning piece, over the last number of years. And I suppose I think there's a duty upon us to kind of think broader and longer in terms of how we approach housing. So, the market, or the perception of the market, is that everyone wants, the semi-detached house or the detached house, a bit like the house I grew up in, Mullingar, and that's the panacea, and everyone aspires to that and the white picket fence, and it's not sustainable. So I suppose how we embrace density, how we fund density, and I say this isn't a question of high rise or low rise. It is around an appropriate blended mix that can work really well. And if you look at the density in Merrion Square or parts of Portobello, they're really dense locations, but they're not transfixed by back gardens and some very binary tie to a car, etc. So it's kind of getting that balance between urbanized housing and suburbanized, and we are going through a very material transition. So it is challenging, but I suppose the goalposts have been changing, and COVID has an impact on that. Absolutely. So it's a challenging time for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that Ireland has been handling COVID just in general well?
Yeah, I mean it's look, absolutely, and look, we have to take the expert guidance, and I think society has responded well, and it is wonderful to see how kind of inclusive people have been and generally been been bound by it. I think I was pleased on Friday to see that acceleration of the unlocking, and it's I suppose it's from a health perspective, it's what we've missed in the period of time. My poor old dad has been hearty and healthy for 69 years, and he's had a tough time of it. And some of the things that he would need to see it have been not happening because of COVID. So look, he's on the right trajectory. But I suppose having that sort of first-hand insight, and he's been cocooning has been it's been tough. So I think in the main we have, but how we go on from here and how we kick on in earnest and just open up the economy is important, and open up other services, be that childcare and for children with special needs and all of those things. I think that's really critical. So it's been an enormous sacrifice for everybody, which is brilliant. But I think we need to continue on this upward trajectory, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. And what part of any one project do you love most? Like, what part of the whole process do you love the most in any of your projects?
I love when we win the instruction. It's always exciting when you're appointed.
Sure.
So we tend to celebrate a lot. So we enjoy lots of parts of the journey. I do very much enjoy the very early stage around conception and design, and we quite enjoy the pitching process. Sometimes we have very formal pitches, which are very competitive amongst some really good peers in the industry, and that can be a lot of fun. But I think the design and interacting with other professionals and that engagement with the likes of yourselves, Arlene, and the architects, and the brand specialists. I really enjoy all of those elements, so there's we work in design, we work on marketing, we work in a really sort of broad thrust. And then it is absolutely brilliant when you meet that young couple and they've just secured the dream home, and that kind of excitement and passion. I mean, that's the ultimate highlight. And then it's, it sounds cliched, but we are about creating communities, and, it's to see those successes. But like a lot of the projects we're working on that are on the market now, we would have commenced work 3, 4, 5 years ago, as you know. So it is a very, very long process to get those doors open, and probably the role of the agent can be misunderstood. We do quite a bit more than opening the doors and guiding people journey.
No, totally. I know that. And do you find managing your clients' expectations can be challenging for you?
It depends on the client, but I suppose that's the one of the key requirements of the job is managing those expectations. But we have very good data and we have very good research. So everything we do is evidence based, and I think it's hard to argue with fact. And as I say, the policy piece is that piece that's ever evolving, and we are at a critical juncture over the summer in terms of how that evolves. And look, it's all about the art of communication, and that's really what it's at.
I love watching programs just for fun, like $1 million listings. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that on television.
I think I have a few of them working with me here, yes.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Frederick Eklund. He's just outrageous. He's great fun.
Yeah.
But do you think that the American style, like the American brokers, their style is different to the Irish approach?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're a little bit more understated. It's funny though. I have my dad's sister, Anne, is a realtor in California. So that's on one side of my family, and then on the other side of my family, my late mum's brother Ross McParland was one of the leading new home specialists many years ago. So I've kind of had that insight on both sides, but the Beverly Hills version of chicken salads and multiple listings is very different. So my aunt on one side and my uncle on the other have quite different approaches. And obviously in America, the commissions are about 5 times what they are here. So Auntie Anne is kind of going, "You sold how many homes? And you guys must be." I said, "No, like our fees are so low." So all of that. So it's. I mean, I think that the model in America is very individual, and there is that kind of personality piece and a bit of the celebrity around, the likes of those you drove through. But it is a very individual scenario where certainly within our team, it's a team and a squad, and we rotate it and we share in the upsides. So it's, that atmosphere certainly for us, this company is one of the things that we really enjoy. So it's around the collective performance, not the individual performance.
So is that what motivates you, Ivan? Is that what you think kind of puts that fire in your belly? Is it the whole kind of the win, the whole process, the whole collaboration?
The collaboration is absolutely massive, and it's and in recent years in particular, it really, really is. And it's I suppose you are doing it for other people. It sort of, again, it sounds a bit OTT, but it is around everybody winning together, and I think it is that. And I suppose like we have had effectively rebuilt the business, so supporting each other and driving forward, and as best we can give people a good trajectory and a good future is a massive motivator. And I suppose in terms of the work we do on the policy side in housing, it is a little bit of wearing the green jersey and coming up with better choice and better solutions for people. I've a brother, a nurse. He's as a key worker, and he was busy through COVID. But on nurses' salaries, it's incredibly challenging to live where he wants to live, or live in a long-term way. So we are invested in solutions and sort of taking that longer road for Ireland. So so it is interesting. Maybe I'm getting old, but I suppose trying to have that bigger picture is fantastic. And I say I'm lucky in that we're sort of supported and encouraged to kind of think beyond today and look to next year and the year beyond and the year beyond that as well.
For sure. And do you think COVID-19 has been like on par with the recession, or do you think it's just totally different, or do you think that we'll recover quicker out of this?
Yeah, I think the financial crisis and going into the financial crisis, we 40 billion in lending and mortgage lending, and it was all credit fueled, and it was quickly quite us and them and quite adversarial. And there's you were attending meetings, and there was so many different interests that were at odds with each other that there wasn't a collaborative spirit in terms of coming out with solutions. There's nobody caused this, and there was no one overextended or was too risky or all of those different elements. So I think the collaborative nature of everyone being in it together in trying to figure it out is fundamentally different. So there's an entirely different spirit about trying to recover from this, particularly in the industry that we work in. Whereas before, many of our collective clients would have been vilified for the professions and the roles that they play, and arguably rightly so. Whereas it's much more engaged and much more interactive. And I think you say there is something binding about everyone being in it together, and I think that's a big positive.
Definitely. And how do you relax after one of your crazy weeks? I mean, what's downtime like for you? How does that happen at home?
So Ben is 5 and Lucy is 3 and 1 and 3. So it's my wife Michelle is an absolute saint. She's a great mom to the 4 of us, including myself. I'm managed too. So it's we've a very active life, and so I love to walk the piers. We live in the coast and walk Dunleary piers. I love the farmers market in Dunleary when it gets back. I miss that for sure. So I do a bit of running. We keep pretty active. I like an old craft beer and a glass of red from time to time. Probably too often, but it's keeping active. It's hanging out with the kids, and it's the lockdown was enjoyable from that perspective, particularly at the young stage of my kids' kind of evolution and developing themselves and really seeing their personality. So it's very much around family time.
Sure.
For sure. So that's.
What did you learn about yourself during the pandemic, Ivan?
I learn about myself. Ooh. I mean, I think it's probably tapping into that resilience, and trying to be as objective as you can, and today we probably touched into some of the economic challenges and issues, um, and as I've mentioned, my dad has had a tough time health wise, and it does. Sadly, I lost my mum when she was quite young as well, so she was in her 40s when cancer had to go. But her approach and attitude and glass half full perspective is something that you got to work at, but it's something that I suppose I've kind of learned over the last 40ish years, and so I suppose it's just getting up and trying to be as objective as you can, and keep the right side out. Most of the time I was easy enough to live with. There were some days when I wasn't. Michelle may have a different view, and say within the team we set ourselves different challenges, and we're doing our 100K in 30 days and different things, and trying to see who can get there the fastest. So it's I'm still competitive and as ever. In some ways sort of more energized. But I think it's trying to be supportive, try and be kinder to people.
Yeah.
But try and be resilient. Is sort of where it's at.
Yeah, a lot of people have used those.
Curly hair suits me again.
Yes, exactly. And where's your favorite place in your own home? Like, where do you like to sit and read the newspaper and have a cup of coffee?
Anywhere it's quiet when the kids have gone to bed. I invested a couple of years ago in a big green egg. So
wow.
those big barbecues. So I do like standing over the hot coals. That's kind of a pleasant spot to be, because it's hot. The kids stay away, so it's probably there. I do try and get through the Sunday papers at some point over the day, and it just depends where it's quiet. So I would say that I don't have a red dot in the house per se.
A red disc. I know what you're talking about exactly. And so, tell me about your morning ritual. Your alarm clock goes off at what time in the morning on a Monday morning?
On a Monday morning, it goes off at 6:45 a.m. And probably the three kids are still asleep, so I would try and nip down, make a cup of coffee for Michelle and for myself. And I sometimes run into the office. So this week I've been very good. I've been running in and out of the office. I'm only about fortunate to be just about 6.5 kilometers from the office. So it's a 30-minute run into the office, which is pleasant. This morning I didn't, but we did have a Zoom HIIT class with some of the team early. So I try and do a little bit of exercise in the morning, and then probably have a second coffee when I get into the office. For typically sort of 8 to half 8, depending on the day. So it varies. Sometimes we're going to site first thing. Sometimes we're coming to the office. But definitely start with a coffee and try and get the heartbeat going a little bit.
Are you a early bird or a night owl?
No, I'm an earlier bird, pretty much. Yeah, I'm. We would both head to bed. We wouldn't sleep past 10:30 all that often, and past 11 would be quite rare. So we're definitely early birds. And I say with the three little ones,
for sure.
Well, so not really morning people. They are up early. So we're not one for late night movies, really.
And how does social media fit into your life?
My wife would say too much. It's a little bit too much. I mean, look, I'm interested in on Instagram. I like cars. I like old cars. I like a bit of design. I like a bit of style. I like architecture. I'm curious around the news and do tap into LinkedIn quite a bit. So. LinkedIn I've been kind of quite engaged with for quite some time. Instagram it's only probably in the last year or so. Look at Twitter a little bit in and out. But Janie, the stories from Speyside in the last couple of weeks are really, it's really sad. It's really a tough scenario. So that's kind of a tough place to be when you see how divisive parts of the world can be.
Definitely. We had a chat with John Fitzpatrick, from the Fitzpatrick group.
Yeah,
And he was very interesting to chat to. And he was just saying that he felt this was, in fact, worse than 9/11.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and I know my aunt in LA is sort of experiencing it, and it's so terrible because the positive of COVID was everyone's in it together, and then so quickly, that sort of spirit has been broken stateside, and we're not
yeah.
immune here either. But it's not endemic as it is in other states. But it's it's really sad.
Yeah, it is definitely. And what one piece in your home holds the most special memories for you?
Um, well, it's kind of a recent one, but my wife got me a fantastic painting by a Limerick artist whose name is gone out of my head. But it's a portrait of David Bowie. It's really colourful.
Oh, wow.
Um, bright image. It's kind of just over a dining table, and I think that's kind of current item. Um, I have a lot of clothes, as my wife would admit to, so it's or would blame me for. So whilst I'm not really a hoarder of things, I do have a lot of things. But yeah, I think that painting is what will come to mind at the moment.
Nice. And how do you spend Christmas in your home?
We've hosted family and particularly my wife's family over the last number of years, and we've had various degrees of success as hosts. So it's yeah, look, it's a great time of year, and obviously industry pretty much shuts down for that period of time. So it is the one time of the year where the phone really isn't ringing, and we've we smoked the turkey crown and the egg, and we've done different things, and my mother-in-law and I will and Michelle's brothers will get in for a dip in Sea Point. So we'll do the Christmas swim, and we'll enjoy the day. And obviously Santa Claus has been coming in the last few years again, so that's been fun too.
And did you travel much, Ivan, like for business during, post or rather pre COVID-19? Would you have traveled a lot, perhaps little trips over to the UK?
Yeah, again, probably not enough because you're going to get somewhat entrenched in the day job. But
Yeah.
through PII, we have been doing more of the architectural tours, and I suppose it is looking at best in class schemes. So we had a couple of more trips planned this year, and they're really really beneficial. So I mean, we had a good trip to Copenhagen and Cambridge, as I've mentioned earlier before, and I think it's that's increasingly important in terms of looking at the evolution. And I suppose that's partly forced by policy, but it is to be embraced, and it's something we need to do more of, and it's something we're doing a lot more research around. So yeah, I mean, there are probably the European examples we look at. We do go to London in terms of the more so your area in terms of the interiors and the specification. But I think that kind of medium density housing is typically outside of London. But again, it's I think one of the things out of COVID is people embracing the bicycle. Before the kids arrived, I used a lot more cycling, but I think that will change the pattern of schemes a little bit as well, and the bike might be a little bit more front and center as it is in the Scandinavian countries. So it's they're fantastic trips to do, and then it's trying to relate those and apply them in an Irish context is sort of kind of down to how we interpret it. So
Irish weather permitting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And tell me, what advice, Ivan, would you give to your younger self?
Probably to be a little bit more patient and to be kind and courteous, and to be really curious. I mean, I think when we meet new members of the team who are working with us, or people sort of setting out earlier in an earlier stage in their careers, it's I think that curiosity around everything is really important, and seek the feedback and 360 feedback all the way. But yeah, I think curiosity and kindness would be good traits. I'm probably more curious than kind, but I'd say that's probably how I'd approach that one.
And who has been like your icon in life, or the person that has inspired you the most in your career?
Yeah, well, I actually in a big way, my mum and my dad, for that sort of resilience in change, and absolutely my uncle Ross. So when I was 16 in Mullingar with my long flowing curly hair, I came to work with Ross for a couple of weeks when he had the office in Northampton Road, and he had a red MG at the time, and this lovely blonde girlfriend who's now kind of my aunt, but was kind of going, whatever it was, this was kind of cool. So it was sports cars and blondes that got me engaged at an early stage and got me motivated. So my mum, my dad, my uncle Ross, I've had really good mentors within the business, be it across commercial agency, and Mark Fitzgerald, whom is our chairman, and big broad picture sort of guy. So they've been great people within my career generally and within my personal life.
And Ivan, my final question: where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I'll hopefully be still sitting here, and there'll be more people in the office, and we'll be doing what we're doing, and hopefully we're in a good place for Ireland Inc. and Europe Inc. The family will be that bit older, but I think we're hopefully on a good path and a good trajectory. Obviously you'd like, as ever, you want to get that work-life balance. It'd be nice to spend more time in the west of Ireland and a little bit of that. But it's, I think so far so good. We've been somewhat knocked off track. We'll get back on track. And again, it is having those medium and long-term goals are important.
100%. I'm going to ask you a quick round fire question. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Coffee, please.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
Text or talk?
Talk.
Bedside, left or right?
Right.
Cat or dog?
Dog.
Red or white wine?
Oh, red.
Taxi or walk?
Walk.
Site visits or board meetings?
I love both equally.
Apartment or housing developments?
Something in between.
Munster or Leinster?
Oh, Leinster.
Home or away game?
That's a good question. Away games are fun. Away games.
Coastline or countryside?
Oh, coastline.
Rugby or GAA?
Rugby for me.
Modern or classic design?
Probably more in the classic space.
Eat in or take out?
Eat in.
Boris Johnson or Donald Trump?
Oh, do I have to choose?
2020 or 2021?
I think I'll take both. One will be a year of recovery, one is a year of learning, and one is the future. So I think I wouldn't be writing any year off or in.
Good answer. I agree, actually. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Ivan. It's been great chatting to you.
Absolute pleasure, Arlene. Thank you very much for asking me along.
You're welcome. And stay safe and take care of yourself and your family. And I'm sure I'll bump into you soon in the future.
And to you and yours. Thank you.